All right. I think the doors got shut and I got the thumbs up from audio. So let's get started. I'm Katie Selhorst. I'm the head of landscape restoration and a chief remote pilot for Landcare Australia, with the honors of giving and emceeing all these nice tech and innovation talks that we have over the next few days. I am not going to be talking much, thankfully. I will do quick introductions. We will save questions to the end. We will have a roaming mic if we have time. Speakers, I think we have some additional speakers in the room. We have their 5 minutes, 1 minute, and stop. And if I need to jump in, I will jump in. All right. Without any further ado, this is John Blanch from Grovia, and he is going to be talking supporting Landcare at scale, digital bridge between people and nature.
Wonderful. Thanks, Katie. Morning, everyone, and it's good to be first cab off the rank in these breakout sessions. Yes, I'm John, and I work for Grovia, leading our business development team. So it's really exciting for us to be here today, and thanks Landcare Australia, because today we're able to share that Grovia is now part of a partnership with Landcare Australia, and we're really helping to democratise this thing called natural capital markets and allow landowners, not just the big corporates, actually engage in these markets. So to date, today I'm going to talk about environmental plantings in particular, but Grovia does a number of things in the natural capital space, which happy to talk to you after this about that. And so today I'm going to walk you through Grovia, which is a digital platform which allows you to quickly and thoroughly and in a compliant way engage in environmental planting markets and more broadly natural capital markets. And you might ask, well, why is this important? If you want to engage in these markets, there's a number of regulatory obligations that you need to comply with. It's not straightforward, but to date, a lot of the engagement in these markets has been done by large corporates with large teams that can navigate the complexities of these systems. Grovia is democratising all of that and allowing any farmer to actually understand how these things are going to impact on your farm and whether or not it's a good idea. So Grovia helps you plan a project, plant the project, and then manage it through its life. I'm a farmer myself, and I use this product, have used it on the farm to help us navigate the pros and cons for what it might mean for my farm. So environmental plantings for me are not about the carbon, but are about all the great co-benefits that I can have by having trees on my farm. And then the bonus, the kicker, and we heard about it before, is the financial return that I can also get from carbon markets by putting this into my farm system. So we all know about the great benefits that trees have on farm, but there are also these financial incentives, which are not insignificant, that can actually be with you across the life of that project. These projects registered will be there for up to 100 years in terms of its permanence obligations. So these are long-term decisions. You want to get them right, and feasibility, which is what Grovia can help you do, is the most important part, a very important part of that journey. So if I just talk through a few of the different modules, and I don't want to take up too much time. We've got 25 minutes. Let's have a good conversation at the end of this. Happy to take questions at the end, but we start off with the planning component. So as you can see here, if you look at that little tab there, and it's a bit fuzzy, but all of those little dots are all the things that you need to take into account, like when you're actually running a project. So, we help you with understanding some of the risks on your asset. Is it too steep? Is it the right environmental community? What's the carbon yield on the asset? Most farms have a big degree of variation on them when it comes to the carbon yield. So this is a carbon heat map here. Each one of those pixels gives you a different number. Each one of those numbers correlates to a dollar value. So as you can see here, there's quite a bit of variation. So when you're planning a project, this is something that's really important for you to understand. And the platform, within 5 minutes, anyone in this room, I could click on any parcel in Australia and I could tell you what your yield could be. And then what I'm going to go through in this next slide is we've built a thing called a scenario builder that helps you actually go, well, I don't want to plant wall to wall on my farm. Most carbon developers, not all, but many, are buying up land and planting wall to wall. And that's fine. That's their prerogative. But what we're interested about is, as a farmer or as a land carer, how can you integrate this into your farm? We're not going to plant wall to wall necessarily. We've got other things going on in our business. So how do I go about assessing the trade-offs? So here's one asset. This is a riparian area. Well, we've got a map here of the riparian area. We can then go in and say, well, if I just plant the riparian area, what's the area? What's the dollar value that I can get in terms of yield? I'm assuming it's $54 a tonne. Okay, what if it's 100 or what if it's 20? And I can get a break-even price to actually understand whether this project stacks up. We've also got a carbon calculator tool in here to help you actually weigh up the trade-offs here. And then you can do this for other things. So we've got riparian. What about a shelter belt? What about a block planting? These are all the real things that you need to think about when you think about farm planning. So this is an asset down the Snowy Monero. Some of you are familiar with this property in the room, but if you're planting this as a wall-to-wall project, this sort of doesn't matter. But if you're a farmer, this matters a lot, and you need to get it right because this has implications for how you run your farm, which is your main revenue that you're looking to generate off this asset. Then you've also got to look through some of the economics of it. So does this stack up? So the orange bars here in this asset, that's what I currently get off this farm, $150 a hectare per year at a carbon price of $54 across these three different scenarios. And I would say because this asset's really uniform in its carbon yield, we're actually getting a pretty consistent number across those those three green bars. But in other situations, it does vary quite a lot. But if you're talking to, say, Tim from Rabobank, who was speaking just before, this is the stuff that they want to see. Like if you want to get genuine financial commitment from a bank, these are the sort of things that you need to be able to go to them with and to say, look, this is my scenario, this is the economics of it, this is the yield, this is why I'm interested in doing this, and this is the trade-off that I'm making between current ag production and environmental planting. Once you've done all that stuff, you've got to go and manage these projects. So there are regulatory obligations around maintaining compliance, implementing the project, assurance through the life of the project. So when you sign up to these environmental planning projects, it's a minimum of 25 years. So, and there's points all the way along that journey that you need to actually report against. So we've got a module in here which allows you to do that seamlessly. We don't think that you should have to rely on expensive third-party consultants to help you navigate some of these things. So we've built these tools. And some people will go and get external advice, but our view is we want to empower you, the landowner, the land carer, to take this journey. And we've got the support tools with you, and that's why we've partnered with Landcare Australia, because they're implementation experts. So, Grovia is part of another company called Airseed, and we do implementation as well, but we're agnostic, but we do believe that Landcare is a very, very good partner when it comes to implementation. And so we're trying to roll these tools out with them to get the best projects possible in the ground. We don't just want projects to make money, we want projects that restore ecosystems and are good for the Landcare network as well. These are some other tools. So this is the sort of timeline that you need to think about when you're doing a carbon project. And this is a stylized one here, but there are many, many milestones that you need to navigate. If you don't get them right, your project won't be compliant. So we've tried to simplify this and sort of highlight some of the risks that you also need to be aware of, whether it's natural hazards, whether it's climate variability. Like up the top here, it's a 20-year drought history and current rainfall. Guys down in the south of Australia right now, you're not going to plant trees. Like you'd be thinking about maybe feeding your livestock, but you're not going to plant a tree. But when the time does change, you want to be ready to be able to start that project. So if you've registered your project and you've done all the prep work, then when the season does change, then you're going to have an opportunity to move quickly, and the platform allows you to seamlessly sort of navigate the process that you need to go through to be compliant. That's all I wanted to share today. How am I going on my time? Yeah.
Dear John.
I hope that was interesting. Happy to take some questions.
Dear John, yeah. that was very good.
Sorry? With Landcare? or for us. So the way that Grovia works is that it's a subscription-based model. So if you're an individual farmer, you've got one farm, and you just want to do one project, we'll say, okay, well, that might cost you $1,000 for the year, and you'll be able to use this platform to navigate your entire journey over the life of the project. We've got this other add-on, if you like. It's called a pro report. It's the deep dive due diligence that you need. That is the bankable part of the project, that we run some smart machine learning, we calibrate it with, or we'll run full cam for you, which is the standard model that needs to be run to make sure that you're fully compliant. So what I showed you there is sort of the light assessment, if you like, and then we always recommend people should get that one-off report. So if you're an individual, that'll cost you $3,500, which is extremely good value. Like it's a tenth in sometimes the case, a tenth of what others are charging in the market. So we just want a really accessible product that anyone in the room can engage with. No problem.
Thanks, John. Has the system got flexibility to go from planting to natural regeneration? So perhaps you've got 25 hectares of lantana.
Mm-hmm.
Best way to restore that is through natural regeneration rather than planting.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to change from lantana to emerging rainforest, and a fairly well-developed rainforest up to 25 years. Could the system accommodate that?
Yeah, so the first pass, there's a number of different vegetation layers that we go through to identify what's eligible on your land. So I would imagine that probably lantana would show up as a sparse woody veg layer. So it would probably be excluded as an initial pass on our assessment. But based on a site visit, you would identify what's lantana, it's an invasive weed. So if you were to remove that, and then, so weed management is obviously the most important thing, but if you were to remove that lantana, then I would suggest that you might be able to, be eligible for a reforest or for a environmental planning project.
The carbon value of the rainforest would, I'd imagine, be very, very much higher than lantana. So yeah.
Oh, well and truly.
Yeah, I mean, I know, but in terms of monetary terms.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, and I like, the biggest risk, or one of the largest risks to the success of any environmental planning project is preparation, and weed management is a huge part of that. And in the platform, we do have multiple milestones to signal to landowners, hey, look, you need to look, these are the weeds that are of risk in your area, and these are the things that you need to think about in terms of management of those. Obviously rainfall helps as well.
Hello, thank you. I enjoyed that. My name's Pam. I'm just very interested. It's obviously come a long way. It's much more sophisticated than some of the early starts on some of this. But we're farms by means of fences. If you took the fences away, we're talking about catchments, we're talking about bigger properties. I'm just wondering, are you finding in areas that adjoining properties are looking at this together, where the greater benefit would be doing it in that way?
Oh, indeed. I think catchment scale work, and probably this is where Landcare is in a really good position to bring people together. Holbrook, for example, comes to mind as a catchment that for a long time has done some really good work across that whole region. And so, the platform itself, we can run any size parcel of land. It's the way that we run the analysis is based on cadastral boundaries or parcels across an asset, but regardless of how big, we could run that asset. So if you had a catchment, we could run a carbon heat map for the entire catchment. We could then say, this area here in the north of the catchment is the highest yielding and probably is going to be the best return for investment, but there's also these other good remnant bits of vegetation that would be good to connect up. And so what about we think about strategic planting between those areas, so to get that broader biodiversity benefit.
Hi, I'm Sonia Carey from over here.
Oh, sorry.
So you're looking around. I'm from Western New South Wales, so we come from quite a dry climate, usually 9 to 11 inches of rainfall a year. It's not much.
Yep.
Obviously, I come from both a representative as a land manager. I live on a station out there, and also a Landcare coordinator, so I also represent other land managers out there. In terms of what you do, have you done anything in those drier climates that have the bigger properties And I suppose in terms of accounting for those rainfall areas where it's very little rainfall.
Yes, so trees that to have an eligible project, it has to get 20% canopy closure, number one. So, and we help navigate all that complexity. But in short, the super arid regions are probably never going to be, you're never going to have a carbon project that's an environmental planting probably in those regions, with the exception of some other species. They has to grow up to about 2 meters of height. So a lot of the carbon projects are in that like 400 mil plus rainfall area. Like if you're starting it in that really arid area, you're probably more in, you know, the human reduced regeneration work, the HIR sort of work with Mulga and others. Like that's probably where it's going to work better for you. Unfortunately, it's really strongly correlated with soil type and rainfall and certain vegetation types. But we have run analysis like for Landcare over the last 6 to 12 months of properties from the Eyre Peninsula right through Victoria up into Queens. Like we've run a lot of different analysis, but I would dare say if we ran your property now, the yields would be quite low. But it's good to know that regardless, like, you know. Sorry. Yeah.
I was curious about the data layers and models that you were using to make the carbon yield predictions.
Yes.
And how much ground truthing would a farm still have to do, I guess, to then actually access carbon markets?
Yes, so like I said before, there's two products, the rapid assessment, the light assessment, and then the more detailed pro report. So with the pro report, we run full cam. So full cam's the government model that is the benchmark and as is the backbone of all of these carbon markets. So we run that model for you. We, between our light report and our pro report, we 9 times out of 10 recommend some ground truthing to verify some of the things that you mentioned. So that's always an important part. Whether we do it, a landowner does it, a third-party consultant, you know, we're agnostic there. But in some complex environments, you do want like an ecologist or someone else to actually go out and have a look. Because you know, one of the important things about an environmental planting project is you can't just plant any sort of tree. You have to plant the representative community that is there. So and the platform helps identify that, and there's a seed database which helps you then navigate what types of seeds that you actually will need to plant that representative community. But on one particular property, you might have 5, 6 different or more different ecological communities that you need to plant out. So that can be a little bit tricky, and sometimes ground truthing is really important.
Are you looking at adapting your platform so it can be used for biodiversity credit market as well?
Very much so. Yep. So, you know, it's the Grovia platform is holistic, and I've just shown you one module today. The biodiversity markets is something, you know, we've got modules in the background that are growing all the time. So, for example, you know, we've just been recently talking about the BCT work in New South Wales and how that could be potentially integrated in. And I think once the nature repair market sort of really comes to life, there's going to be more opportunity there. The clients that we work with at the moment that are using the platform for environmental plantings, and these are often the larger operators, they are also registering increasingly these projects under the NRM method, nature repair market method. So I think you'll see more of that, where you get a stacking of projects, where you've got an environmental planning project and an NRM project. And I think, yeah, the module will allow you to do that once that comes to life a little bit more.
Question, I represent one of the local not-for-profits, and then with your partnership with Landcare, can you talk a bit more about what that includes, or how that works, and also how local, like Landcare groups, who were talking about on the panel before, right, that local Landcare groups could be an advisory, I guess, body to landholders? Do you see your tool being used in that process as well?
Very much so. So I think there's a few points there. So, yeah, it's the specifics of how different local Landcare groups that sit, you know, independently but related to Landcare Australia is probably yet to be worked out. But at the moment we're working on a funding model that could allow, landholder groups, farmers and others to actually be able to access not just grovia, but like properly engage with these environmental markets. And that's a live conversation at the moment that we're having with Landcare Australia. So stay tuned on that one. But in terms of how grovia can be used for individual landowners, that's exactly what we like to do. Like I sit down with landowners, and we're doing it with some farmers over the next little while, sit down, go through the scenario builder, understand what the trade-offs are, understand what it means for your business, work out whether it's worthwhile or not. Because it can be quite complex, but, and unfortunately to date, I guess operators in this space have, kept a lot of that behind closed doors and charged a lot of money so you can access that information, which is fine. But we think there's a better way, and through this, we think for a pretty low cost, you can really get a lot of really valuable information to help you make a decision. And some of these EP projects, it's not small numbers, like it's significant dollars and big decisions. So you want to get them right.
Hi, John. My name's Lynn. I'm just querying the price of the Accurate, $54. That seems much higher because I thought it's around about 36 at the moment.
No, you're right. So up there that's a sliding scale. So you can move that bar around as you see fit. What I would just say though is that for environmental planting projects, EP projects, they at the moment tend to command a premium in the market. So the $36 spot price you might be referring to, that might be an HIR related carbon credit, maybe soil, but there is a premium attached to environmental plantings, and there's even more of a premium when you have an indigenous component or you have a nature repair component attached to the environmental plantings where you're stacking value. So you will increasingly see EP trade at a premium to some of the spot prices that you do see. But in the platform, the spot, you can set it at spot and that will automatically adjust all the outputs there. Yeah, and so the 54 is a spot for EP right now. So some people like to run it up at 100 or whatever, you can do that. But it's conservative, I would say.
Do we have any other questions? We have I got the 5-minute sign, 4-minute sign, one more.
Great talk, thank you. Wondering whether you can explain where your program differentiates from Planner. Now, I know obviously the management part does, but if you could explain a little bit more for that.
Yep, no, happy to. So people ask me this all the time, Planner, Look-See. So Planner, for those who don't know, it's a combination of biodiversity metric and a carbon metric, and it's a government tool. So in simple terms, when it comes to the carbon component, Planner is not as accurate, and it's not meant to be. It's not as accurate as grovia. So grovia is gives you exactly the same output as if you had a consultant run it for you or if the government ran it through you, ran the assessment for you through FullCam. So we are FullCam compliant, fully legislative compliant. You wouldn't, in my view, you wouldn't ever use Planner to do a project. And that's not its intention either. Planner is there to give you a bit of an idea. Is this a real thing and should I look at it further, or is it not really something that I should look at? And that's the intent of the tool. This tool is meant to allow you to actually do the project, be fully compliant, and to get some numbers that are robust. Yep. So that's how I would sort of weigh up the two. But Planner is free. So a lot of people like to use it.
All right. Well, we have 2 more minutes. We have time for maybe one last question. Is there another question? Oh, here we go.
Just wondering, do you provide support about plant selection and sourcing provenance?
Very much so. So that's a really good point about provenance, and probably one of the biggest barriers to environmental plantings is sourcing seed or tubes. So we have a module in here called Seeds Near Me, which matches the environmental planting configuration that you've designed with the seed availability. So we've got a proprietary model that sits in the back end that connects with a lot of seed suppliers to tell you who you need to connect with, and the platform allows you to connect with those suppliers and then have that seed sourced. So we've tried to simplify it as much as possible. Just one thought on Planner, just while I thought of it again. In the front end of Grovia, there's a product called Snapshot. Anyone can access it. It's a very rapid assessment with a lot of detail, and it's a free product, and so you can access that through the website. It's quite powerful. So if you do want to look at that, feel free to jump on the website and you'll be able to do that as a free assessment.
All right. Well, that is time. And can we please give a round of applause for John?
Thank you.